Hello, this is State Representative Robert Martwick, and it's June 3rd, 2019, and we have just completed our legislative session for the year, and I want to do a video and give you a wrap up on it. Now, uh, let me start by saying, first of all, an apology, because I know I've normally done a lot more videos than this, but we had so much on our plate, and there was so much work that I honestly just didn't have the time. Um, we worked extensively, long hours, in order to get a lot done. And I'll tell you, boy, did we get a lot done. Um, this was a historic year. To accomplish so much in one year, I honestly don't believe it's ever been done in the history of the state of Illinois. And it's something that I'm very proud to have been a part of. I think most of what we did was really good. In fact, I think all of what we did was really good. Not that every part of everything is going to be something that everyone should like, but that's democracy, right? We all get together, we try and move the state forward. And especially coming on the heels of 4 years with Governor Bruce Rauner, boy, did it feel good to get anything done, let alone to get so much done. So there's so much to cover. I'm going to run through this. A quick caveat, check back. There'll be more videos where I'll go in this in depth, but for now, so I'm not here for 40 minutes, let's do this quickly. We're going to run right through this stuff. So let's talk about what we accomplished. What a year. I mean, it's unbelievable what we accomplished. So, as you can see up here, over here, where am I? Right there. So we've got, we did the fair tax. So this is a constitutional amendment that will be in the form of a referendum question on the 2020 ballot. You get to decide whether or not Illinois should get rid of its old broken system of taxation or adopt a new one that's more fair. And obviously you can see what I think. We should definitely do that. Very early on in the year, it almost seems like a year ago, but it was just in the beginning of the session, we raised the state minimum wage to $15 an hour. Stepped in over time, but it's a big accomplishment. The next thing we did that was huge was the Reproductive Health Act. And so this is guaranteeing access to abortion services and reproductive health care. And that's no small feat given what's going on in the rest of the country, where most of the states are doing everything they can to make it illegal and take it away. We passed recreational cannabis. This is a big one, right? So a number of years ago, I think it's 5 or 6 years ago, we passed medical cannabis. Now we've passed recreational cannabis, and we'll talk a little bit more about that. All right, let me go to the next page here. We passed a capital plan. The last time a capital plan was passed in Illinois was 10 years. If you've driven around our roads and you've seen them crumbling, you saw the story about the Lakeshore Drive almost collapsed because of a failure in the bridge there. We needed to reinvest in our capital. We passed a capital plan. We'll talk more about that. We got a Chicago casino. Again, something that's been tried for probably 15 years, never been able to get done. We got it done. That also included sports gaming. So this is a big initiative that's been going on across the country where people are now able to wager on sports. And we passed, as part of the gaming expansion, that goes in there too. And then finally, something I'm very proud of, something I worked on, student data protection. I worked on a great group called Raise Your Hand. Big shout out to the folks at Raise Your Hand. We passed student data protection. And again, all of these things I'm going to talk about more in greater detail, but now we'll talk a little bit about just a few of them. Hey, guess what? We passed a budget, and it's balanced. Imagine that, 4 years of devastation under Bruce Rauner where he refused to do anything. In 1 year under Governor Pritzker and with a supermajority in the Democratic Party, we passed a budget. Now, here is the most important thing. It's not on my little sheet here, but imagine this. Governor Pritzker won by the largest margin of victory in the history of state of Illinois for governor. We have 74 seats, Democratic seats in the House of Representatives, and we only need 60. A super duper majority in the House and the Senate, and a Democratic governor. And so you know what we needed to do? You know how much participation we needed to give the Republicans in this process? Zero. Zilch, nada, nothing. In fact, by all accounts, they were irrelevant. But here's the fascinating thing. Even with Governor Pritzker as the governor, and even with super duper majorities in the House and the Senate, it was the most bipartisan year I've ever been a part of in my 7 years there. We reached out to our Republican colleagues. We worked with them in good faith. We made concessions to make sure that they got things to go back to their district, even though we didn't have to. What a change an election can make. Goodbye, Governor Rauner. Welcome, Governor Pritzker. It's good to have you. Bipartisan votes on all of the important issues. It was great. So what about that balance, that budget? It's balanced. It makes a full pension payment. We didn't skimp on our pension payments, which is good. Keeps us on track to pay down our debts, which is so important. We're paying off more old bills. We've got a $1.4 billion to reduce our backlog of old bills, which is another big form of debt. So there we are, reducing debt. That is responsible, fiscally responsible government. We're fully funding our education and then some. So we passed this commitment to raise funds for education. We actually beat that commitment. We were supposed to put in $350 million. This year we put in $375 million. And pro-business reforms. Reforms that businesses have wanted for 10 years, and they couldn't get under Governor Rauner. They got them under Governor Pritzker with super majorities in the House and Senate because we worked together. Great budget, and it was a great process. All right, so let's talk a little bit more in depth about some of these. Let's talk about, now let's see if I'm on the right slide here. Fair tax. Let's talk about the fair tax. And I think that this one is something that I'm, obviously, that means a lot to me and something that I'm very proud of. I was the sponsor of the constitutional amendment question. So how does this work, right? Now that we've passed it, it goes on the November 2020 ballot, and you get to decide. I don't get to put a fair tax on the state of Illinois. Only you can through your vote in the November 2020 election. So while I'm happy to see the question make the ballot, now we really have to go out and make the case to the voters because they get to decide. So let's talk about what the fair tax does. It eliminates our structural deficit. And again, caveat, we're going to go over this in much greater detail in future videos, so make sure you tune back and we'll find out about it. It eliminates the structural deficit, and that is a huge thing in the state of Illinois. We've run structural deficits for decades. That's raised our debts. It's made us unable to spend money on the things that are important. And most importantly, it causes constant pressure to raise taxes. So eliminating the structural deficit, you eliminate the need to raise taxes. It lowers taxes for 97% of people in Illinois. Anyone making under $250,000 a year is going to pay less. And that's not even a fair comparison, because this is a solution to our problems where the current flat taxes drives the problems. If you compared it to the tax rate that you would need under the flat tax, which is about 6.5%, it's everyone making $300,000 a year or less will actually save money under this system. It creates property tax relief. It increases the property tax credit, so you get more relief for your property taxes. And it also, by ensuring that we can pay down debts and fund education, it lowers the pressure on local property taxes and provides relief there too. Moving along to the next slide here, it increases the dependent, it actually establishes a dependent child tax credit. So now you will get relief on your income taxes for your children. You'll be able to claim them. More than just an exemption, you actually get a credit against that. It ensures, again, is where we talk about, ensures debt reduction and ensures we can live up to our commitment to fund education. And now, of course, goes back to what I said before, is it reduces the need for future tax increases. And that really is profound. Everyone in Illinois knows we're tired of tax increases. We want to be on a path to fiscal stability. After the 4 years of devastation under Rauner and the decades of mismanagement, it's going to take a while to get there, but we're putting ourselves on the path, and that's great. And if we pass this, we're providing a little bit of immediate tax relief for people who are suffering. All right, let's talk about the last thing. Let's talk about what a fair tax is not. Okay, there's some groups out there who feel it's their mission to go ahead and advocate against this. They're backed by big money. They're standing up for the billionaires in this state. They're not standing up for you, but they want to show you how they think it's going to affect you, and it's not true. So what do they call it? They say it's a jobs tax. That's ridiculous. It's not a jobs tax. In fact, 95% of small businesses, which is where all the jobs are created, 95% of small businesses will receive tax relief under this plan. 95%. No way it's a jobs tax. Next, what's the other thing that they say? They say it's a blank check for government. It is not a blank check for government. That's ridiculous. It's no easier to raise or lower taxes under the fair tax than it is currently now. So the idea that, oh, if we pass this, they'll just change the rates whenever they want. We've had a tax since 1970. The rates have been changed 4 times. It's ridiculous. It doesn't happen. All right, so let's move on to the next one. Moving along here quickly. Recreational cannabis. Hoping I'm on the right slide. It's hard to hear from where I'm looking here, but recreational cannabis. And this one is important. This is something that was done in a way that no state has ever done it, okay? We passed legislation. Most states have done this through a ballot initiative. We did it through legislation. And because we did it through legislation, we were able to craft it in a way that works great. What does it do? And I'm going to go in much greater detail on this. But the law was created from the standpoint of equity, understanding that the war on drugs has included the war on cannabis, which has unfairly punished a lot of people and ruined a lot of people's lives, and that's been disproportionately in minority neighborhoods. We built this law around the idea of if we're going to legalize cannabis, we have to make sure that we correct some of the inequities of the past, and it was drawn with that. But what's the gist of it here? As of January 1st, 2020, anyone over 21 of age can legally purchase a certain amount of cannabis. There are warning labels on everything, and local municipalities can opt out. So if you live in a town that doesn't want it, you can go and tell your people, we don't want legalized cannabis here, and they can keep it illegal there. A couple other quick provisions here. We've got employers can adopt a policy of zero tolerance. People are worried about what's going to happen if, when it becomes legal. It's no different than alcohol when it comes to these respects. So employers can have zero tolerance for cannabis. And the other thing that's important to note about this is there will be taxes raised on it. A portion of those taxes will go towards law enforcement, increasing law enforcement, for whatever needs they have related to this. I don't imagine that those will be big, but whatever they are. Mental health and addiction counseling, very important, right? Because anything that's related to drugs or alcohol typically involves mental health or addiction. So we're increasing funding for that. And finally, we're increasing a portion of this towards paying down debts, making the state more stable, preventing future tax increases. Good stuff. All right, let's talk about the next big initiative we had here, and that is the Reproductive Health Act. This is big. And why did we do this? This is huge. Access to safe and legal abortions are under attack. Now, to be fair, if you don't like abortions, you're not going to like this, okay? And that's fine. I am and always have been 100% pro-choice. I believe women should make healthcare decisions with themselves and the advice of their doctors, and I think government shouldn't play a role in that. So I am very happy about this legislation. You may not be. I understand that. We'll have to agree to disagree on that, but the truth of the matter is that since President Trump got elected and he started appointing these very conservative justices to the Supreme Court and actually every other court, access to safe and legal abortions is under attack. 7 states have passed laws that effectively outlaw abortions, and they provide criminal prosecution for women who have them and doctors who provide them. You talk about going back 50 years in what we've done in this country. That's why we went forward. We said, in Illinois, we believe women should have access to reproductive health care, and we are going to make sure that in the event Roe gets overturned, Roe versus Wade, and I would say there's not only a good chance, I think it's almost an inevitability that Roe will get overturned. We wanted to make sure we acted on that before it happens, and so that we protected rights in Illinois. So we passed the Reproductive Health Act. What does it do? It establishes a fundamental right to make individual decisions about reproductive health care, including contraception, abortion, and maternity care. The individual gets to decide, not government. That's how we believe the state of the law should be in Illinois, and that's what it does. It does some more. It allows, and this is really important, it allows healthcare providers, doctors, to perform abortions in accordance with their training and acceptable medical standards. The government does not tell doctors how to perform heart surgery. We don't tell them how to perform kidney surgery. We don't tell them how to perform cosmetic surgery. but somehow or another, we're in their operating room telling them how to perform abortions. It's nonsense. Most of these laws have been that have been in place since the 1970s have been enjoined by federal court order. But if the Supreme Court overturns Roe, they could come in and completely change the state of law in Illinois. And we didn't want that to do. So we stripped away, the reproductive health care strips away all these old laws that are old restrictions and penalties. They're outdated and redundant language. And so what it does is it enshrines the state of law about abortion, the law that is related to abortion in Illinois, now and forever. It makes sure that that is a fundamental right in Illinois. It does not expand access to abortions. It simply enshrines the law as it exists today. And the one thing it does is it requires private, this would be, I guess, the one expansion, requires private insurance companies to cover abortions. And that is important. Okay. What does it not do? It does not make, and the reason I say this is I got tons of emails from people who are being told by groups that don't like abortion that this law was going to make some things available that just wasn't true. And that's unfortunate, right? Because the people who are advocating against abortion usually are advocating against it because they have some higher belief that there's some higher order telling them that they should do this, some religious belief, which is fine, I respect that. But if that's the case, what does it say about your argument when you come and you lie about what the law does, right? So what does it not do? It does not make partial birth abortions legal. The federal law still applies to that, and partial birth abortions are illegal in all instances unless it is critical to save the life of the mother. And they don't happen. They're so infinitesimally small, it's kind of ridiculous. It does not provide abortion on demand. Again, we're not expanding access to abortion. It's the same as the laws currently exist in Illinois. And here's the last one. It does not force doctors, and I heard from a ton of people who work at Catholic hospitals, that Catholic hospitals are going to be forced to provide abortions. The Healthcare Right of Conscience Act is untouched and it still applies. If you work at a Catholic hospital and the Catholic hospital, because of its religious affiliation, does not want to perform abortions, or if you work at a public hospital and it's against your religious belief, no one is forcing you to do that. It does nothing. It only protects access to reproductive health care as a fundamental right in Illinois, and makes sure that if the conservatives that have taken over the court in the federal government decide to change this, well, we're keeping the laws as they exist here in Illinois. All right, let's move on because we still have more to cover, believe it or not. Okay, we're going now to the capital plan. And this is big, right? This is huge. I don't need to tell anybody. Just drive on your roads, hit a few potholes, drive through an alley, drive over a bridge or under a bridge, even worse, and see the crumbling infrastructure that we have. This has to be fixed. So important. Infrastructure is the worst debt, right? If you have a street that needs to get paved, if you don't pave it today, it's going to cost 10 times as much to pave it tomorrow. And so delaying our investment in infrastructure was terrible. So here, what are we doing? We're investing billions of dollars in repairing our crumbling infrastructure. We're investing in public transit, and we are creating jobs. Anytime anyone goes on an economic stimulus package, it always involves investing in infrastructure, because that puts people to work right away. And when they do that, when they've got money in their pockets, they spend, they drive the economy. So this is a great economic measure. Once again, broad bipartisan support. Everybody agreed that this was the right thing to do about it. So very excited about a capital plan. There will be money coming right here to the district. We'll be working, putting that money to work, working with our local aldermen to repair roads, fix alleys, do good things. All right. So now let's talk about the last part we've got here. Taxes, right? Because everyone said, oh my God, you're going to raise all these taxes. So good news. We didn't raise all these taxes. There certainly were some, but the idea is hopefully they're getting spent in the right way and they make sense. So let's talk a little bit about it. Again, happy to answer questions and we'll go in depth. Now let's talk about what we didn't do. We didn't increase the income tax, right? So you're not paying any more income taxes. We did not. There was much talk about this. Some people, as you can imagine, 177 people in the legislature, people have different ideas. So some people said, ooh, let's put a tax on streaming services like Netflix, or add a video tax, right? No, Didn't happen. And these are taxes that I fought against because I don't like taxes that are regressive and hurt the middle class, and there was no way I was going to vote for that. I'm happy to hear it didn't happen. There's no beer tax, which is good. There's no plastic bag tax. We've already got one in Chicago. We didn't need the rest of the state of Illinois to be forced into that as well. And there's no tax on property transfers, which is really good. So there were a bunch of taxes that were proposed that everyone was scared about. They are not happening. So good news there. But there are some taxes. So let's talk about them honestly. What do we got? Well, we've got a cigarette tax, $1 a pack. I fought against this. I didn't like it. I guess I can accept it, right? I don't like it because I think it's middle class and poor people who are paying the tax. But, you got to raise money from somewhere. This was a demand. There were people who said, absolutely, we're not doing it unless we get this tax on cigarettes. And so sometimes in order to do the whole package, the good stuff, you have to accept the bad with it. Not happy about a cigarette tax, but I can live with it because, hopefully it encourages people to stop smoking, and that would be a good thing. We have an MCO tax, right? So this is a managed care organization. These are taxes on insurance companies. This is a tax on Blue Cross and Blue Shield. These companies are making billions and billions and billions of dollars a year in profits. We are putting a tax on them to help fund our government. And so this was something that was, across the board, everyone agreed that this was a good idea to do, Republicans and Democrats alike. Now we get to some taxes I don't like. One for sure, a parking tax. 9% increase on parking taxes in garages and lots. I think it's a terrible tax, but again, you have to accept the good with the bad. You don't get exactly what you want. You get to decide either you vote for it or you don't. There was so much good in this budget and so much good in this capital plan. It was something I had to accept, so we got a parking tax. And finally, we're taxing gambling and cannabis. So we levied taxes on them. These are things we didn't have. Now we will have them. We will raise taxes, especially in Chicago. Sports betting, cannabis, and casino, that will go a long way towards stabilizing our city finances. I hope the mayor is appreciative of that because she's going to need it. There are some bad things going on. So let's talk about the last one, and this is the biggest one. This is the gas tax, right? And everyone's heard about this, and no one wants to see tax increases. And gas tax is one that drives everybody crazy. But I want to put it in perspective. This is what has always been used to fund our road repairs. Clearly, our roads are a disaster, right? Gas is $3.20 a gallon. 38 cents of that is going to, 19 cents of it currently is taxed. We're going to add 19 more cents to that to raise money to put billions of dollars into fixing roads and fixing infrastructure. But it was last raised in 1990, okay? So let's think about that. 29 years ago was when we set it at 19 cents. Not a percentage of gas, but we raised it. We just put in a flat penny amount, right? And it wasn't indexed to inflation, so it's been exactly flat tax. But what does that mean? Well, let's look at the realities of what we've got here. Fuel efficiency in 1990 was 16.9 miles per gallon. In 2019, it's 23.96 miles per gallon. So people are getting more miles out of a gallon of gas, but they're paying the same amount. So we have a shrinking pool. And you've got more cars on the road, but you've got hybrids and electrics that don't use any gas at all. And so you've got more people driving more miles, but using less gas. And so you go out and you hit potholes and you wonder, how did that happen? Look at the income, right? Am I on the right slide here? I don't think I am. I am on the right slide. Okay. Income in 1990 was $29,000 a year for a family. Family income, $29,000 was the average. In 2019, it's $61,000 a year. It has effectively doubled, right? You went to put a stamp on an envelope in 1990, it was 25 cents. What is it in 2019? It's 50 cents. It's doubled. A gallon of gas in 1990 was $1.19. It's now $3.28 or whatever it is. To go down to the corner and find out. But my point is that everything goes up over time, but the gas tax has remained the same, but because we use less gas, it's declined. It makes no sense. So what this did was it put the gas exactly where it would have been in 1990. Excuse me, if it had been indexed to inflation, it would have been 38 cents a gallon today. That's where it put it at, and now it will index with inflation. So it will grow with the consumer price index. That means it will be no more expensive or no less expensive than it is now, and it will continue to raise the money that we need to properly fix our infrastructure. This is a great thing for the economy of Illinois. It's a great thing if you use the roads. It will invest in buildings and bridges and public transportation, so it's a great thing. So I know this has gone longer than I thought it would be, but that's it in a nutshell. Those are the things that we did here in Illinois in 2019 in your General Assembly. Come back, check out further videos, because I'm going to go in great detail on the fair tax. I'm going to go into better detail on the budget, talk about what's being done there. I'm going to talk more about cannabis, the specifics of it, more about the Reproductive Health Act, more about capital. We're going to talk about all of these things in great detail. So check back. If you have any questions, by all means, you can always leave a comment here. I'll do my best to respond to them. Or you can reach out to me at repmartwick@gmail.com or call me at my office, 773-286-1115. Until then, thanks for watching. Have a great day.